On this episode of RevHang, Ben and I talk about the Monaco Grand Prix and the Indy 500. Let's do it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to RevHang. I'm Nathan, and alongside me, thanks to the mighty power of the internet, is my good friend and co-host, Ben Bagley. How's it going, Ben?
It's a nice sunny day as we're looking outside, and I'm on my laptop today, so the audio quality is a little different, but hopefully everyone can bear with me.
Gotcha. You sound fine to me, so I don't think we'll have any issues. But it's good to hear from you. It's only been a week, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's been a
I
packed
always love
week.
doing these. Yes, for sure. Lots of craziness in the racing world. Speaking of which, we do have a couple of major races to go over this week, so let's just jump right in, starting with the 107th running of the Indianapolis 500. We went over qualifying last week. I want to bring up the qualifying from last week just so we get some context. We won't go through all of it, but I do want to go through just so people know who started kind of in the top 10. So, on the first row, the top three cars were Alex Palou, Rinus VeeKay, and Felix Rosenqvist. Row 2 was Santino Ferrucci, Pato O'Ward, and Scott Dixon. Row 3 was Alexander Rossi, Takuma Sato, and Tony Kanaan. And row 4 was Marcus Ericsson, Benjamin Peterson, and Will Power. So it's kind of the top half of the field.
Yeah,
So
and we
just
had
going,
some pretty wild predictions based off of qualifying last week.
we did. We'll get to that at the end, but our predictions didn't really pan out much for F1 or
Yeah.
IndyCar. Spoiler alert,
Oh,
but they never do. So it is what it is.
we're used to it.
Uh, yeah. Jumping right into the race, Palou got a great start and swapped the lead with VeeKay at the beginning. They went back and forth a few times. It was kind of just processional, people making passes for the lead, pit stops, business as usual. Until on lap 91, Kanaan made a great pass on McLaughlin and Sato on the grass. That was pretty insane.
Yeah,
One of the
yeah, for oval
crazier
race,
passes. Yeah,
see passes.
yeah. On lap 92, the next lap, Stingray Rob crashed into the wall as he was passed by Graham Rahal. Rahal came across the front of him and took some of his downforce. Stingray Rob could not hold the car in the dirty air and spun into the wall. So that ended his race. He was not very happy about it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's crazy to see what effect the arrow has on those cars. I mean, granted, they're going 200 plus miles an hour, but it's always for people in regular cars where you don't really get the arrow. It kind of really highlights how much downforce those cars are making and how much that affects their dynamics.
Absolutely. And when they're on the absolute lateral G limit on the tires, any sort of change in the arrow is just gonna cause massive amounts of problems.
Yeah, especially when you don't have power steering.
Yes, yeah, that does not help things. Um, After the restart, during the caution that ensued after Stingray Rob hit the wall, Rinus VeeKay hit Palou in the pit lane. Neither driver DNF'd, but it did affect Palou's race quite a bit. He got held back for quite a few seconds as he had to get restarted. I think he stalled when he got hit. So not great for Palou. VeeKay wasn't affected too much, even though it was his fault.
Yeah,
So got away with one there. He did actually get a penalty. I should say he did get affected because he got a drive-through penalty, so he lost probably a solid 20 to 30 seconds, I'd say.
yeah, that's probably accurate.
Yeah. But on the restart, there were a lot of four wide moments. It was a pretty crazy restart. Most of the restarts this race ended up being pretty insane.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, kind of think Australia 2023 for F1, where it
yeah,
just packs everyone together, except the racetrack is 235 miles an hour.
yeah, yeah. People were not afraid to go 4 or 5 wide, especially down the straights, but even into some of the corners. It was a pretty crazy race, especially the second half of the race. It really started to heat up.
Yeah, it's a really good oval race to start watching on if you want to get into that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I'd say if you're wanting to start oval racing or start watching oval races in IndyCar especially, start with either the 500 or one of the Texas races because those tend to be the more exciting tracks.
Yeah, you get the speed, you get the crowd just being hyped up, everyone's just electrified. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Um, During one of the pit stops, Colton Herta hit his teammate Roman Grosjean. Neither driver DNF'd as a result of that, but teammates hitting each other is never something you want to see.
No, no, especially with they seem like they've had a pretty good relationship as a team so far, so hopefully
Yeah,
that keeps going forward. This doesn't affect things. But there were a lot of pit incidents. Granted, it was a 200 lap race, so you're going to have a lot of pits, which is a lot of opportunity for incidents. But yeah, there are a bunch of cars that just you'd see them take off from the pit and crash back into the wall or almost run to their teammates. It was kind of a
yeah,
scary place.
yeah. It was kind of wild. Like, I noticed so many, if like all of the drivers were doing these crazy burnouts when they peeled out of their pit boxes, which they don't usually do burnouts like that when they leave. I don't know if it's different for the 500. I don't know if they
Different
use
tire
different
compound, maybe. I
different
don't
tire
know.
compound. Yeah. Uh, but all of the drivers were doing these crazy burnouts, and some of them were almost spinning out as a result. That's how VK hit Pelot. Catherine Leger had a
Yeah,
big moment, but she didn't hit anybody.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Was it one of Pelot's tires that just started rolling away from the pit crew?
I don't remember if it was Pelot's. I don't think it was Pelot's.
No.
The
It was a
person
blue
got.
car, wasn't it?
I think so. Maybe it was Pelot's. I don't know. Someone got.
Uh,
Someone got a penalty. It was a financial. No, it was Santino Ferrucci.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he got a financial penalty and basically a very large slap on the wrist as went during his final pit, I believe. Um, his pit crew dropped one of the wheels and it rolled across the pit line into the slow pit lane, and that's a big no.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Granted, considering the place that he came in, I'm sure he's okay with a slap on the wrist penalty.
yeah, and I'm sure his team will probably compensate him for that, considering he was in the car and had nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
um, so I don't know, but hopefully that's the case. Moving on lap 150, Roman Grosjean hit the wall. He got loose, kind of same fashion as he did in Texas. Um, got into the wall and spun out, and that was the end of his race, unfortunately for him.
yeah.
Marcus
That's got to
Ericsson,
hurt. Lap
yeah,
150.
yeah, it was three-quarters of the way there, almost made it. um, I saw on Instagram today he was riding his bike at IMS, um, and the caption was 50 laps to go. So that's a long bike ride. That's what, over 100 miles if he
Yep.
actually does the 50 laps. So um, we'll see. I don't know if he actually did that, but I found that pretty funny. Uh, but anyway, on the restart after they cleaned up Grosjean's crash, Ericsson led Newgarden, and they kind of swapped the lead a few times. Ward was on a different strategy, and he flew through the pack and snuck up on the leaders. He had fresher tires, and well, I guess he had enough fuel to get to the end of the race, but he was on a strategy that gave him way fresher, like not even close. His tires were way fresher than everybody else's. So he was absolutely flying. Santino Ferrucci took the lead several times for AJ Foyt Racing. It was, I think, their best finish in, I think they said in like 20 years or something. He
Wow.
didn't end up winning the race, but he had a very, very good finish. Um, Really cool because AJ Foyt is such a legendary name in motorsport. I was kind of surprised to hear that it had been so long since they'd had a good result at Indy.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a newcomer to IndyCar, you kind of are familiar with like Team Penske, Chip Ganassi, Andretti, those guys. But AJ Foyt isn't one, at least for newcomers, around the time that we started watching. that you really know about as a household name.
No, but they used to very much be a household name back in the early 2000s and late 90s. They were one of those big teams like Penske and, on that level.
Yeah.
So it's good to see them back doing well. On lap 183, Felix Rosenqvist hit the wall, and Joseph Newgarden passed him, and same story as Stingray Rob took some of the downforce off of his front wing. He hit the wall, broke his toe link, hit the wall again, went down across the track, not hitting anybody yet, but then he spun out, and when he spun back up onto the track, he clipped Kyle Kirkwood's, I think it was rear left tire, something like that.
One of the rear tires, yeah.
Yeah. And sent Kirkwood flying into the catch fence, sliding down the safer barrier. That tire that he hit got sheared off, and the safety harness or the tether that keeps the tires on the chassis actually broke instantly, and the tire went flying over the catch fence and towards the crowd. Fortunately for everybody, nobody was injured. It didn't end up going into the grandstands. It just barely cleared the grandstands. But unfortunately for some poor person, it did land on the hood of a car.
Yeah, the
And
brave Chevrolet Cruze that caught the tire for everyone.
yeah, it did quite a bit of damage. So I don't know how you talk to your insurance company about that, but
I'm, yeah, I did see pictures. It looks like the woman whose cars it was got to go down and kiss the bricks and hang out with uh, some of the race organizers and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
if it was my truck that got hit. I feel like that'd be a pretty cool trade. I'm just saying.
pretty cool trade-off, and I'm sure insurance got it figured out. They probably didn't have to pay too much out of pocket, hopefully. Uh, but yeah, getting to go kiss the bricks and hang out with some of the the who's who in racing is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So after that accident, Ericsson, O'Ward, and Newgarden battled for the lead on the restart. O'Ward made a very optimistic move on Ericsson, which ended in him spinning into the wall. It was actually a pretty scary accident. I was surprised he got out of the car as quickly as he did. He spun into the wall, ending his race. That caused a second red flag. I forgot to mention there was a red flag after the Rosenqvist and Kirkwood accident. So with 5 laps left after the second red flag, the race restarted, but was quickly red flagged again after another accident at the back of the field. Actually, it wasn't quickly red flagged. They went around at least once or twice. Because the race then restarted with only 2 laps left. It wasn't even a green-white checker. It was green and white at the same time, and then a checker, which they never do. They never have done. It's never been done like that, which is why there's some controversy after this.
A little less controversy than in other races we've covered, but yeah.
A little less. I don't think it was quite as bad, as egregious, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So Newgarden made the pass on Ericsson on the final lap to take the lead and win his first Indy 500.
Those were a fun last 2 laps. I will say that.
It was. My heart was in my throat. I wanted Ericsson to win, so I was a little sad, but
I was absolutely really excited to see Newgarden get his first Indy 500 win.
I knew you would be. I was like, Ben and I are rooting for different people right now. I was actually rooting for O'Ward the whole time, but then he kind of threw his race away.
We all were. Oh, he was so close.
If he was just a little more patient, I think he would have won.
Yeah.
But yeah, because he had like 9 laps left when he crashed. He had plenty of time and way fresher tires. So,
could you imagine him taking that just black and white liveried McLaren? That would look so good all the way across the line.
That would have been crazy.
Maybe
Awesome. Oh, there were a lot of great liveries in this race. Justin Newgarden had a good one. I like Scott McLaughlin's a lot. His was a little different.
Yep. Yeah, all 3 McLarens had the throwback liveries.
Yep.
Which I think looked way better than the livery that they put on the F1 car, but that's just me.
Yeah, the F1 car was a little disappointing, but we get to see it again in Spain.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, The results of the race we'll go through real quick. Buckle up because there's 33 drivers, so
Oh, you're gonna
bear
go
with
through all
me.
30 of them. Wow.
Well, I mean, I usually go through all of them in the results, uh, but all right, here we go. Let's just get through
Godspeed.
this. um, your podium top three were Joseph Newgarden, Marcus Ericsson, and Santino Ferrucci. Fourth and fifth were Alex Palou and Alexander Rossi. 6 through 10 was Scott Dixon, Takuma Sato, Connor Daly, Colton Herta, and Renus VK. 11 through 15 was Ryan Hunter-Reay, Callum Ilott, Devlin DeFrancesco, Scott McLaughlin, and Helio Castroneves. 16 through 20 was Tony Kanaan, Marco Andretti, Jack Harvey, Christian Lundgaard, and Ed Carpenter. 21 through 25 was Benjamin Peterson, Graham Rahal, Will Power, Pato O'Ward, and Simon Pagina. We are well into the DNFs at this point, but I'll just finish this. Uh, 26 through 30 was Augustine Canapino, Felix Rosenqvist, Kyle Kirkwood, David Malukas, and Romain Grosjean. And then rounding off the finishers, 31 through 33 were Stingray Robb, R.C. Anderson, and Catherine Leger, which it's actually Catherine Legge is what they were saying on the broadcast. So I've been saying her name wrong this whole
Oh,
time.
yeah, so have I.
Um,
Oops.
I think I looked it up, and Leger was what I found, but they were saying legs, so I'm sure that's probably what it is.
Yeah,
So my apologies.
it's the
But
thought that counts.
yeah, exactly. So we had 14 DNFs, I believe, is what it looks like. That race. Lots of DNFs. That's approaching half the field. uh, but yeah, lots of DNFs. One thing to note, they announced on Thursday that as of this year, there are no more double points for the Indy 500.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was confused when I was doing my standings updates on the spreadsheets last night. I was like, wait, this can't be right. And I looked it up, and sure enough,
Oh,
Indy 500 is no longer a double points race, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. It definitely shakes things up in terms of where people are at in the championship.
but it also
Um,
doesn't shake things up as much as I was anticipating.
yeah, I mean, it changes where people would have been. Like Joseph Newgarden, for instance, is in fourth place, and he would have been, I think, second behind Marcus Ericsson and first if points were doubled. But instead, Alex Palou still retains his lead by like 20 points, and it's Ericsson in second with Pato O'Ward in third, Joseph Newgarden in fourth. Pato O'Ward is very happy that the points are not doubled because he would
Hmm.
probably be back in 10th right now or something like that if
Yeah.
they were. So that definitely changes things.
How do you
But
feel about that?
I don't know. I wish. I mean, the double point seems like a lot because I feel like if you win the Indy 500, that just like gives you a huge shot at winning the championship. Which I guess there is some merit to that. I kind of wish that it was more heavily weighted than just a regular race, but I think the double points might have been a little much. Um, but I don't know. I kind of I don't really have any strong feelings either way, I guess.
Fair enough.
um,
It's probably the best answer you could give. It's very
yeah.
diplomatic.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going for votes for something in the future because
Yeah.
people are going to hear this. Uh, Joseph Newgarden won his first Indy 500 of his career. He's been trying for over a decade. So very cool for him. He's been very close several times, but this is the first one he's managed to actually win. Marcus Ericsson felt robbed as the regulations were kind of bent a little bit to finish under green flag conditions. They always come out of the pits, do a full lap, and then do a restart lap. Whereas on the last restart, they just came out of the pits and went straight into the restart lap. Everybody was on cold tires. It had never been done like that before, so it was pretty clear that they just wanted to finish the race under green flag conditions, which I guess fair enough. But at the same time, if the rules had been followed to a T, they probably would have just finished the race under caution, and Ericsson would have won the race.
Yeah, I bet he's glad that the race wasn't double points.
Yep, I'm sure. So major Abu Dhabi 2021 vibes. the champion from the previous year, was leading the race with the challenger in second. A backmarker crashed out, causing a caution. Things were accelerated against the rules. I guess not against the rules, but the rules were interpreted differently than they had been in the past. To finish the race under green flag conditions, which massively benefited the person in second and put the person in the lead at a massive disadvantage. It all kind of shadows each other. But I think Abu Dhabi was still much worse.
That was for a championship. This is one just normal race in terms of points and stakes.
Yeah. I just found it funny. I was thinking about it. I'm like, there's a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I think they'll get over it.
I think they'll get over it. Marcus Ericsson had a very classy post on his Instagram today, congratulating Newgarden and telling his team how proud he was of them for having such a great race. I mean, second in the 500 is still very impressive.
Yeah, and I think any of the top 5 spots, if they had won, they deserved it.
Absolutely.
There's no controversy aside from that.
Yeah. I was kind of pulling for Ferrucci too. I think that would have been really cool.
That would have been pretty cool.
But speaking of Ferrucci, he did end up on the podium. He finished third for AJ Foyt Racing. Very good race from him. He's not really a championship contender at the moment. Hasn't done super well on the road courses, but he absolutely killed it all weekend. He did really well in qualifying, or all 2 weeks, I should say. Did really well in qualifying, and then obviously followed it up in the race. So I think he should be very proud of himself for that. Kirkwood and Rosenqvist had a pretty scary crash, and the flying tire was kind of the scariest part of that for me, at least. Seeing that fly over the catch fence and not seeing where it landed. It's like, I mean, I've been to the Indy 500. I went in 2017, and when you're not in the stands watching the race, and if you're just walking kind of around the outside of the oval, you can't see anything coming. And so if there was anybody on the other side of that, they would have had no shot.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine just watching a tire fall out of the sky.
Yeah, at like over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, terminal velocity.
Yeah, that was pretty terrifying. But luckily no one was injured, other than a Chevy Cruze or whatever it was. But very happy that no one was hurt. I wonder if they're gonna look at the wheel tether system and see if there's anything they can do to make that a little more robust. But it's very rare, even still, it's very rare that you see tires fly off like that. The tether system usually does a pretty good job.
Yeah, I was almost wondering if that was like something else failed before that.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, moving on. Roman Grosjean still hates ovals. He has not had a very good history at ovals. He tends to be pretty quick. He wasn't really quick in the 500 this time around. But he usually tends to be fast, but then he makes small mistakes, and small mistakes on ovals mean crashes. So hopefully he can kind of get that skill set figured out. Because I think when he does, he'll be a real contender for the title, because it's really the 2 oval races we've had so far this season that have held him back in terms of his title contention. Stingray Robb still having lots of problems. He is now DNF'd 4 times, I think in the first 6 races or something like that. He also blamed Graham Rahal for him crashing, even though Rahal did nothing wrong. He just passed him. Granted, Rahal's car took the downforce from Stingray Robb's car, but at that point, it's his responsibility. Yeah, it's his responsibility to keep his car under control. You didn't see Felix Rosenqvist blaming Joseph Newgarden for him crashing. So, I mean, it's just one of the tough parts of the sport. But I think his attitude was pretty poor, and him blaming other people for all his crashes is not a great look, considering he's got 4 DNFs. but I don't know. Hopefully, he needs to figure something out and turn his season around quickly because it's not going good so far. um,
Yeah. Do you think
yeah.
he do you think he'll make it to next season, or do you think after this season they're looking for someone new?
Um, I think it really depends on the rest of the season. Um, I'd say the next 5 races or so are going to be pretty key uh, in that decision. But if I mean, in the races he has finished, he's finished last, and so it's like, I don't know. I don't think he has a lot of time left to prove himself. Um, like it seems like most of the rookies generally do better than that. I mean, Benjamin Peterson's having a fantastic season, um, and Lundgaard had a great season last year. And I know you can't really compare people like that, but you also kind of can because they're all in the same car. And so, um,
Yeah, it's hard. It's been a really strong rookie class the past couple of years.
yeah. So you can't expect a rookie to be, absolutely stellar, but at the same time, he's finished last in the 2 races out of the 6 that he's finished. uh,
Yeah,
it's just not good enough. And there's a lot of people that I think could do a lot better. So he's really got to, you know, he's got to figure it out really quickly, or else he will get replaced, I think, by next season. But anyway, that's enough of a bummer on Stingray Rob. I love his name, but he's not doing super well.
yeah,
Pedro Award was impatient at the end of the race, and I think it cost him the win. He was absolutely flying. Definitely the fastest car on the track at that point. He had 9 laps left when he crashed out, and with only 2 cars in front of him, both within a half a second. I think that move, that crazy last minute dart down the inside of Ericsson, when Ericsson really didn't have enough, leave a lot of room there. I think that was a little overzealous. And it ended up in him crashing out. So unfortunate. I really wanted Pato to win the race, but he was kind of the opposite of last year, where last year he was too cautious and didn't go for a move that was probably on, and it cost him the win. He got second behind Ericsson, and this year it was, like I said, the exact opposite. He went a little too ham too early, and crashed into Ericsson and ended up spinning out.
yeah. Hopefully next year he finds a nice middle ground and doesn't back off too much.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean the difference was between last year and this year. This year he had 9 laps left when he made the move. Last year I think he had 4 or 5, so it was closer to the end of the race. 9 laps is a lot of time on an oval like that, especially when you're
Yeah,
right there. I mean that's the reason Newgarden won. Is on the last lap you want to start the lap in second place. They kept saying that because you get the slipstream, and it's just the way oval racing kind of works. You slipstream past the person in front of you, and there's not much they can do about it.
yeah,
So, but with that being said, Ericsson drove very well defensively. He did every single thing he possibly could on that last lap, and unfortunately it didn't work out for him. But definitely props to him because he didn't make it easy.
yeah. And first place last year, second place this year. I mean, keeping your name on that top podium is no mean feat either. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I've got a couple memes here for this episode. This first one is
oh
the
man,
is the Shaq sleeping meme. First one where he's sleeping, laps 1 through 173, and then he wakes up, 3 red flags, many DNFs in the last 27 laps.
yeah. I saw another one. It was the Willem Dafoe meme where he's just looking up at the sky. It's like Snowball looking up at the tire hurtling towards it.
Oh yeah,
I think Snowball is the name of the Chevy Cruze.
yeah, that's funny. Um, So I don't think we'll go through all the standings this week, but we'll go through the top 10. Starting with the championship leader is Alex Palou, followed by Marcus Ericsson, Pato O'Ward, Joseph Newgarden, Scott Dixon, Scott McLaughlin, Alexander Rossi, Roman Grosjean, Will Power, and Colton Herta. I would say with, I think, 11 races left in the season, everybody in the top 10 is still in it. A lot kind of has to happen if you're between 6th and 10th. But the top 5 for sure are definitely still very much in the championship fight. But we'll see. I honestly think it's going to come down to Palou, Ericsson. Well, I mean, yeah, like I said, the top 5. Really. But I would not be surprised if Ericsson kind of starts making a push. He's not very happy with how the 500 went, so he might start being more aggressive, trying to win races. We'll see. But I would love to see Ericsson win the championship. That'd be really cool.
Goes into salty Swede mode.
Yeah, salty, sneaky Swede.
Yeah.
But that's all we have for IndyCar. Let's move on to the Formula One Monaco Grand Prix. We'll go through qualifying real quick. The top 10 were Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon in third, followed by Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton. 6 through 10 was Leclerc, Gasly, Russell, Tsunoda, and Norris. Lando putting that McLaren in the top 10. Good stuff.
Yeah, that was a big move.
Yep. One thing to note, Sergio Perez crashed out in Q1 and had to change his gearbox, and so he started last in 20th. Going into the race, Verstappen maintained his lead on the start. Stroll, around the hairpin especially, got mugged of several positions. Kind of fell back through the field. Stroll did not have a good race. Sainz hit Ocon on lap 11 and kind of ruined his own race. He sheared half of his front wing off. But he kept going, surprisingly enough. He didn't pit. He drove
it didn't seem to affect him as much as I thought it would.
Yeah, he ended up driving about half the race with broken front wing. Kevin Magnussen passed Logan Sargent into Mirabeau on lap 18. Pretty crazy, opportunistic pass. He made it work, and there was no contact, so good stuff. It was pretty much Monaco things, a procession from lap 25 to 50, until on lap 52, rain hit half of the track, causing absolute strategy mayhem. People were sliding all over the place because half the track was dry as a bone and half the track was super rainy. So
yeah, because you have that entire covered area, the tunnel, where there's no rain.
Yeah. So drivers stayed on slicks for 4 or 5 laps, just absolutely skiing through the first sector. It was pretty nuts. On lap 55, I should say on Alonso pit and gambled going onto the slicks, thinking maybe the rain would let up a little bit. And he had the opportunity to gamble because he had a pit stop sized gap between himself and Ocon in third. So if it didn't work, it really wouldn't have affected him much. And it did not work. The rain ended up moving to the entire track, and so everybody ended up hitting 4 enters by about lap 56. Carlos Sainz slid off the track and tapped the barriers, I should say, on lap 55. His car was fine, but he did lose a few positions. On lap 57, Stroll hit the barriers pretty hard, broke his front wing off, and then slid into another barrier again. His car was pretty messed up after that. Toast. Yeah, so
watch him try to stop the car.
Yeah.
Just kept on going.
I don't actually know where he pulled off the track, but there was no safety car, virtual safety car, or anything. But he was also walking back to the pits, so he didn't make it back to the pits. I don't know where he put the car, but he ended up DNFing on lap 57. The rain eased up a little bit, and the rest of the drivers kind of went into survival mode on the intermediates until the end of the race. And top 3 on the podium were Verstappen, Alonso, and Ocon. Ocon with his first podium in Monaco, and he now has more Monaco podiums than Charles Leclerc.
Wow. Biting. Yeah, I thought this race, when I saw the rain, I perked up. I was like, oh man, we're going to get a different pole or a different podium than what we saw from qualifying.
Yeah.
And there are all these changes and all these pit stops and shuffles, and then nothing changed.
Nothing changed. Yeah.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Exactly. It actually, the top three really didn't change for the entire race, surprisingly enough.
Yeah. The only thing that changed is, at least in the top five, they just got rid of the Ferraris.
Yep. Ferraris did not have a good race. But they tend to not do well in Monaco, so...
They haven't really been doing well.
That's fair. Very fair.
We're back to 2021 mode.
Alright, going through the results. Yeah, going through the results. Top three were Verstappen, Alonso, and Ocon. Fourth and fifth were Hamilton and Russell. 6 through 10 was Leclerc, Gasly, Sainz, Norris, and Piastri. Double points for McLaren. 11 through 15 were Bottas, De Vries, Zhou, Albon, and Tsunoda. And then 16 through 18, rounding off the finishers, were Perez, Hulkenberg, and Sargent. And then 19th and 20th with the two DNFs were Magnussen and Stroll. Magnussen was classified as 19th, but he, I think it was like lap 71 or 72 with 6 or 7 laps left. He retired his car in the pit lane, but he did hit that 90% mark, so he was classified technically. All right, so Verstappen had a really good weekend. He held on nicely in the race, ended up winning by about 30 seconds. It wouldn't have been 30 seconds if Alonso had not made the wrong gamble on his pit stop. In fact, I think if Alonso had just put inters on in his first pit stop, he might have had a chance at actually winning because he came in before Verstappen. So I think it would have been really close if he made the right call, or if his team made the right call. Apparently it wasn't his call. But it is what it is. I'd say Fernando was arguably the most impressive driver on the this weekend, aside from, I'd say, Ocon as well. He was very quick. He should have had pole position in qualifying. It was so close. But then Verstappen had this otherworldly third sector and ended up gaining like over 3/10 in just that last sector. Pretty nuts. But very good weekend from Alonso regardless. Mercedes had a good result, finishing 4th and 5th. Good to see from them, especially with their new side pods. They do have a car that works well, at least in Monaco. We'll see how that really translates in Spain, because obviously they're very different tracks. Ferrari... Thank you, Ben. We're just adding memes to the script as we're doing this right now. Ferrari had a tough race. Kind of fell back a little bit from where they started. Leclerc actually didn't have anything bad happen to him this time around in Monaco. So I don't know if the curse struck, but he still did not finish on the podium. Still chasing the podium and the win, and I think he probably will be for a while.
Bad things just happened around Leclerc this time.
Yep, yeah. Ocon, like we said, drove very well all weekend. Pretty insane to put that car third in qualifying, and then keep it third throughout the entire race, keeping Carlos Sainz behind in a very aggressive Ferrari.
Yeah, Gasly didn't do too badly either. He came in 7th. Behind the rest of the top tier teams and Leclerc.
Yep. Yeah, both Alpines did pretty well. Gasly's really starting to get in touch with that car, I think. So I think Alpine's gonna probably be the main contender for best of the rest. Getting, I guess it'd be 5th this year. But anyway. Perez seemed to be driving angry for the whole race. He was not happy after qualifying, obviously. He was hitting everybody. It was like bumper cars out there. And Stroll, too, was also hitting everybody and all the walls. both Perez and Stroll were kind of just people were trying to avoid them.
Yeah, there are a lot of front wings lost
Yes, absolutely.
on
I was
Sunday.
surprised when Perez drove underneath Nico Hulkenberg's car that he didn't lose his front wing.
Then the radio message afterwards, Nico brake checked me.
Nico brake checked me. Yeah. Okay, bud.
Brother in Christ, you didn't know you were there.
Goes for a dive bomb around the outside of one of the tightest chicanes. Oh, Stroll didn't leave me any room, even though he turned into him.
Why do these games keep happening to me?
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. And then Perez also got lapped twice by Verstappen that race, which, oof, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Granted, Perez pit like 5 times, but still. So second meme of the day, we have the calm panic calm meme. Laps 1 through 50 were calm. Laps 51 through 65 were absolutely insane. And then laps 65 through 78, when the rain let up, was also calm and processional again. And then Ben, why don't you describe your meme to the audience?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we didn't know where Lance Stroll went, so it's the kid disappearing meme, just gives the peace sign and fades away.
Yeah,
Just like Lance Stroll did, because we don't know where he went. We're gonna have
yeah,
to
but
start making videos for these things.
we
So
are.
people can see what we're laughing at. We sound insane right now.
Absolutely, especially if we start doing memes.
Yeah.
I that's definitely in the books. At the very latest, I want to start doing that in season 3, but might even think about doing that after the summer break this year. But we'll see.
Ooh.
We
Gotta
got
put
to
this
talk about
4K
that.
webcam to use somehow. I
Yeah.
mean, wait, what?
All right. So top 10 in the standings for Formula One. I gotta get going here because I gotta leave for work in like 20 minutes. Top 10 in the standings. We have Verstappen, Perez, Alonso, Hamilton, Russell, Sainz, Leclerc, Stroll, Ocon, and Gasly. In terms of the Constructors' Championship, it is Red Bull, Aston Martin, Red Bull, Aston Martin, Mercedes, Ferrari, Alpine, McLaren, Haas, Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, and Williams. Red Bull has a commanding lead, and Aston Martin and Mercedes are only separated by 1 point, so that will be a battle to watch for sure. All right, Pit Stop Championship. We'll go through the top 10. Winning was Perez, followed by Leclerc, Verstappen, Alonso, Ocon, Sainz, Gasly, De Vries, Stroll, and Norris. Those were our points finishers. Not much has changed in the standings. Perez is still very much on top, followed by the 2 Ferraris. Ocon moves up to 4th. Verstappen's in 5th. Gasly's in 6th, followed by Hamilton, Tsunoda, Russell, and Norris rounding off the top 10. Ferrari is winning the Constructors at the moment, followed by Red Bull and Alpine. 4th and 5th are Mercedes and AlphaTauri, and then 6 through 10 is McLaren, Aston Martin, Alfa Romeo, Williams, and Haas. All right, speeding through the Pit Stop Championship.
Yeah, that was quick.
Yeah, I gotta go. Overtake of the week. I gave this one to Tony Kanaan on his pass on Scott McLaughlin and Takuma Sato on lap 91 of the Indy 500. This is the one where he was going well over 200 miles an hour and went all 4 wheels off the track onto the grass to make the pass on both cars.
That was. I'm sure Pato saw that and was like, "Yeah, I can do that. Some laps left in the race. That'll be fine."
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty insane, pretty nuts. Definitely the overtake of the week for me. All right, moving on to our predictions. Let's start with last week's and the Indy 500. Why don't you go over your podium for me, Ben?
Okay, so I had my podium set out as Palou, Lingard, and Ericsson. Don't ask me about Lingard. Last time we did this show when we made the predictions, it was very late, and I was very tired.
Yes, it was I think 11:30 about the time we were making our predictions.
Yeah.
My predictions for the podium were Rosenqvist, Ericsson, and Kanaan. So we both got Ericsson up on there. Take that. But the podium ended up being Newgarden, Ericsson, and Ferrucci. I think you wrestled with Newgarden a little bit, if I recall right. But you put Lundgaard.
Yeah. I was like,
and
let's put Lundgaard. Let's keep Lundgaard in there. Why not?
Yeah, and I put Kanan up there, and I think he finished in like 16th or something like that. So both of us swing and miss on that one.
Yep.
Winning pit stops. It was technically 9 according to motorsport.com, but that includes the red flags where you're not allowed to service the car in any way. So I took out those 3 red flags, and the winning number of pit stops was 6.
Well, how about that?
How about that? Ben got it spot on. I said 7, and I was incorrect.
That was pretty close, though. You're 14% off. 17% off. I don't know.
Whatever that is. Yeah, I think 14 something. But, yep, so good job on that, Ben. Monaco Grand Prix. Remind everybody of the top 5. It was Verstappen, Alonso, Ocon, Hamilton, and Russell. Why don't you go through your top 5 for me, Ben?
Yep, I had Perez, Verstappen, Sainz, Alonso, Leclerc, and Stroll was my dark horse.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't think anybody predicted Perez crashing in Q1.
No.
My top 5 was Alonso, Perez, Verstappen, Leclerc, and Hamilton with Ocon as my dark horse. Absolutely nailed it with Ocon.
How about that? Yeah.
I'll take that. Fastest lap went to Lewis Hamilton. What did you say?
I had Verstappen.
And I had Perez. I think fair enough on both of those.
Yeah, now they're the Red Bulls had fastest lap. Crazy.
Perez did for a while, but then Hamilton stole it, and then it started raining, and that was it. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Driver of the day was Esteban Ocon. What did you say?
Very deservedly so. I put Perez.
And I put Alonso. And yes, absolutely. Ocon did deserve it. I will say Ocon won driver of the day by 0.9% in the votes. And Alonso was second, so I almost got it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Moving on to our predictions for this upcoming week in the Detroit Grand Prix and IndyCar. Who do you have on pole position, Ben?
So I have Rossi in pole position for this one.
Okay. Gotcha. It is a new track. It's the streets of Detroit. It's not Belle Island anymore. Or Belle Isle, or whatever they call it. It's one of those. New track, so I don't think there's much we can do to predict anything. But Rossi tends to be pretty good at street circuits, so solid choice there. I chose Marcus Ericsson.
A solid choice.
Yeah,
he's gonna want it after the Indy 500.
Absolutely, that's what I was thinking. Go over your podium for me, Ben.
So I've got Pato, Grosjean, and Rossi.
Okay. I have Ericsson, Newgarden, and O'Ward. I almost chose Rossi instead of O'Ward.
Looks like we're both just really pulling for O'Ward to get something.
Yeah, I feel bad for him after this 500, after how that ended. Yeah. But he's always got a good attitude, so I think he'll claw it back a little bit. All right, winning number of pit stops. What'd you say?
I've got 3.
And I have 2. I think it will be one of those 2 numbers.
Yeah. The bold prediction would have been to offset yours by one the other way and just choose 1 pit stop.
Yep. one stop race. That seems unlikely. But who knows? All right. Spanish Grand Prix for Formula One. Why don't you go over your top 5 for everybody, Ben?
All right. I'm being a little boring, and I've got Verstappen, Alonso, Leclerc in 3rd, Perez, and Hamilton, with Gasly as my dark horse.
Gotcha. I think I went even more boring, and I went Verstappen, Perez, Alonso, Stroll, and Sainz. And I have Norris as my dark horse.
I see Stroll up there, though. It's interesting.
That was kind of my shot in the dark a little bit. But we'll see. All right, fastest lap.
I'm going to say Russell for this one.
Russell, okay. And I have Verstappen. Driver of the day.
Alonso.
We both have Alonso.
Incredible.
Incredible things, yes. The Spanish driver doing incredible
Doing Spanish
things.
things, yeah.
Yeah, seems very likely, but we'll see. Who knows? All right, that kind of rounds off our predictions for this week. There's only one more segment we have, and that is Ben's Words of Wisdom.
Yeah, it's my favorite segment. I'm gonna have to start learning more wisdom so I can keep on dispensing it for people.
Yeah.
But I was reminded today, especially as there's farm traffic picking up where we are. It's Memorial Day weekend, all that stuff. People are coming home from the holiday. Just making sure you add 5 or 10 minutes to the start of your commute or travel to make sure you get where you're going on time. And it would suck if you're trying to pick up your kid from school or something. I don't really know how that works, but uh, if you're to be late for important things like that, it'd be a big bummer. So yeah, just plan ahead.
Plan ahead. Awesome stuff, Ben. All right, that runs off our episode. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a like or rating on the platform you listened on. It really helps us out. Helps us get out there in the algorithm. Even just a couple likes would help a lot. Not that we're begging or anything.
We're not
If you want to
desperate.
see, no, not at all. If you want to see updated standings for IndyCar and F1 or a calendar of upcoming racing from all sorts of different series, check out our website, revhang.com. If you have a question about racing or about us, hit us up on Twitter using hashtag RevHangPodcast, and we might feature your question on the next show. You can also follow Ben on Instagram at BenjiMeetsWorld and myself at 2N_squared. We'll be back in a week to talk about the IndyCar Detroit Grand Prix and the Formula One Spanish Grand Prix. Until then, I have been Nathan.
And I'm Ben.
Thanks for hanging out.
See you later.